Egypt, fertile, wealthy and powerful, wise and mysterious. Even the gifted Greeks found inspiration in this plurimillenary culture whose secrets were handed down in a language composed of seemingly indecipherable signs. It was only in 1822 that a young French Egyptologist, Jean-François Champollion, discovered the key to unraveling these mysterious hieroglyphics and unveiled the secrets of one of the Mediterranean's oldest and richest civilizations. A new curiosity concerning Egypt sprang up all over Europe. But Rome hadn't waited until the 19th century to make direct contact with the ancient civilization of the Nile. In the year 30 BC, the Emperor Augustus reduced the once powerful Egypt to a Roman province, after winning the Battle of Actium against his rival Mark Antony, who had become Cleopatra's lover and commander of her army. To commemorate that triumph, the emperor had brought from Heliopolis, the city of the sun god, 2 obelisks erected in that god's honor. In respect for their original dedication, Augustus had the 2 monoliths erected in places related to the sun. The first, bearing the name of Ramesses II, the great pharaoh of the 19th dynasty, was erected at the far eastern end of the central spina in the Circus Maximus. According to the idea of the time, it would have appeared like the sun, while the chariots racing around it symbolized the stars. The second was dedicated to Pharaoh Psammetico II of the 26th dynasty and was set up in the Campus Martius as the gnomon of a gigantic sundial. Today, the 2 obelisks can be seen respectively at the center of Piazza del Popolo and in Piazza di Montecitorio. The most famous obelisk in Rome, the one standing in St. Peter's Square, arrived in the city in 40 AD under the reign of the Emperor Caligula, 70 years later than the others. In ancient times, this obelisk decorated the Circus Vaticanus against the hill where the present-day basilica, named after St. Peter, stands over his tomb. But the largest of all the obelisks in Rome is the one outside the Basilica of St. John Lateran. It weighs over 500 tons, and together with its pedestal is almost 153 feet high. This gigantic sandstone monument, the largest made in Egypt at the time of Pharaohs Thutmose III and IV of the 18th dynasty, was brought to Rome in 360 AD under Emperor Constans II. Obelisks are just one example of how much Egyptian culture, art, and civilization influenced the decorative arts of Rome. Towards the end of the 15th century, the Renaissance and the humanist movement transformed simple attention for the expressive arts of ancient cultures into a veritable passion on the part of scholars and collectors. Consequently, the rediscovery of imperial Rome brought with it renewed interest in ancient Egypt as well. This interest increased further at the beginning of the 19th century, when it became possible to read the documents of the Nile Valley culture. It was Pope Gregory XVI who decided to open an Egyptian museum in Rome in 1839. The new museum was called Gregorian in honor of the pontiff whose idea it was. Many of the objects and finds housed in the Vatican Museum come from around the sanctuary of Karnak, on the banks of the River Nile, in front of the Valley of the Kings, the site of the temple complex of Luxor, near the ancient city of Thebes. This is one of the most interesting and fascinating archaeological sites in the world. It comprises a series of colossal buildings begun under the 18th dynasty, and to which temples and monumental constructions were added right up until the Ptolemaic era. The entrance to the sanctuary is marked by a double row of sphinxes with the heads of rams. They lead inside the complex to the temple of Ammon, with its famous forest of monumental columns. Not far from Karnak, beyond the solemn waters of the Nile, rises the profile of the mountains of the Valley of the Kings. This is the site of the funeral monument to Princess Hatshepsut, an extraordinary work created by a brilliant architect. The Vatican Museum houses a stele of Princess Hatshepsut and of her nephew Thutmose III, the two most famous rulers of the 28th dynasty. The stele commemorates the erection of a monument in the sanctuary of Karnak. Every object, every statue, and every stele has a lesser or greater story to tell. Like this throne belonging to the famous pharaoh Ramesses II, who reigned from 1279 to 1213 BC. The era during which experts believe the Jews were following Moses out of Egypt and into the Promised Land. If so, then this is the Pharaoh who persecuted Moses and his people, and whom God punished by sending the 7 plagues. And this is the funerary stele of a nobleman who lived 4,500 years ago, while the rest of the world was still prehistoric. His name was Eri, and, as the hieroglyphics indicate, he administrated the temple complex and the tombs linked to the pyramid of Cheops, the queen of all pyramids, dominating Giza Square near Cairo. The stele is carved in the shape of a door. The Egyptians believed that the deceased could enter or leave the tomb through this door.